depressing as the defeat was, Elton could still take an important lesson from it.
One of the things that Watford taught me was to be a good loser. Because I'm not a very good loser. Nobody likes to lose. Nobody likes to have a flop record. Nobody likes to have a Saturday night where you've been beaten 5-0, but you've got to shake the other person's hand and say, well done. With Watford, it gave me discipline at a time when I desperately needed discipline. Otherwise, I would have gone completely off the rails if I hadn't had the football club, because it was something outside of what I did that was so incredibly interesting, passionate. And if I didn't have the AIDS Foundation at that time, I had nothing other than my career. So the Watford Football Club thing was so important to me. I enjoyed being there with the supporters in the supporters club, drinking too much. I enjoyed going to the matches. I enjoyed the abuse from the crowds. I enjoyed the camaraderie of the players and the board and everything involved in it. It saved my life.
One of the perks of being an international superstar is making amazing friends. And in the 70s, Elton met two of the most fantastic characters of British showbiz.
I got to know Eric Morecambe, obviously, through the football, because he was a Luton Town director and I was a Watford director at first. And, of course, at that time, in the 70s, they were the kings of comedy. When I did those two Christmas shows with them, you didn't refuse those shows. It was like, if you were asked to do them, it was like an honour. It was like getting a knighthood or something in a way. Like, you've been asked to do the Morecambe and Wise show. They were so funny to do. It was a real privilege to be on those things with those guys. Eric Morecambe was one of the funniest people in life, and Ernie was the perfect stooge for him. You did them to be completely taken to the cleaners.
But they promised me I was going to be on the show.
Oh, well. Oh. You'd take it up with them.
I was going to do a new song.
Really?
They wouldn't do that to me, would they?
Well, I don't know them that well. We just clean, you see.
Well, I don't know what to say. I might as well do it. Do you want to hear a song? I've been all over the place.
Yeah. In that suit?
That was the whole idea. You were queuing up to do it to be insulted, and it was great.
That was what I was going to sing on the Morecambe and Wise show.
It's a good job you didn't. Well, come on, we better get back to it.
By the early 80s, Elton John had become an English institution. Publicly, he was sending out mixed signals about whether he preferred men or women. But to his close friends, Elton was clearly gay. But as he was putting the finishing touches to his 1983 album, Too Low for Zero, the unthinkable happened. A cute German tape operator called Renata Blauel caught his eye and he fell in love, shocking his friends by announcing his engagement.
I had one telegram from Billy Gaff, who was Rod Stewart's manager, and I'm still standing, just come out. And it said, "You may be still standing, dear, but we're all on the fucking floor."
They may have been laughing, but it was no joke. On Valentine's Day 1984, Elton took the plunge and married Renata at Darling Point in Sydney.
I was so desperate to be happy, and that I thought that marrying a woman would make me happy because Renata was such a great woman. I liked her so much. I loved her in a certain way. Sexually, I was very embarrassed because I'd never really done it with a girl before, and she was fantastic, and I enjoyed the sexual part of it. I thought, you know what, you've tried everything else, and being with a man hasn't made you happy. You should marry Renata, and that will make you happy. And I didn't really give it any thought.
The British press speculated on Elton's marriage to Renata, often unkindly. And when Elton needed throat surgery in Australia in 1987, the tabloids made much of the fact that his wife was not by his side, but 8,000 miles away back in Britain. Then, 6 weeks after the surgery, Elton found himself cast as the villain in a front-page splash in The Sun, accusing him of sleeping with rent boys behind Renata's back. Elton was incensed.
I didn't care if it cost me every penny I had. I was going to fight because it was so outrageous. They grind you into the floor. Every day would be a different headline. I mean, you see one headline there, but it would be relentless. Every day a new headline.
As the headlines became more and more scandalous, Elton decided enough was enough and went public to deny the accusations.
Michael Parkinson got me to come out and do an interview. He said, listen, if you don't say anything, you're going to look guilty.
There's sort of stories of a lurid sex scandal, rent boys and all that sort of thing. You deny all the allegations?
Absolutely, yes. I've issued writs against certain newspapers, and I'm going to fight this in the court, and I'm going to hopefully, well, be victorious. If I'm not, I should be distraught, because it's quite unbelievable what they've written.
Not only was it unbelievable, it was proved to be false. The Sun had claimed Elton attended an orgy in Berkshire on April the 30th, 1986, but the singer was able to prove he had been out of the country on that date. Elton won a record £1 million in damages and a full-page apology from the paper.
Anyone can have an opinion about me. They can say exactly what they like, and they can insult me to my face, but don't make up a story and tell something that's wrong. And I will always sue them if they do that. Fuck off, basically.
Elton won his court case, but he lost his wife. Having been separated for over a year, in November '88, Elton and Renata finally divorced.
She's the classiest woman I've ever met, and I do love her desperately, but it wasn't to be. I was living a lie, and you know, she would be very happy to be still married to me because she loved me so much, and I loved her, but it wasn't the right decision to make. It's just I really preferred to be honestly with a man. So it was a very hard decision, but you know, we were two adults. We sorted it out ourselves without the help of lawyers in the end. And my big regret in the whole thing was having to put her through that whole thing of someone who actually loves you and then having to say goodbye to them. I'm not exactly proud of that, to say the least.
Elton once said that flying over the Alps reminded him of all the cocaine he had ever taken. By the late 80s, Elton's habit was no longer fun. It was serious. By 1989, Elton was binging dangerously, taking a line of cocaine every 4 minutes. Often alone, isolated, on a completely different planet.
I've spent 2 weeks in my house in London, in my bedroom alone, just doing coke, smoking joints, and drinking scotch. It would take me 15 minutes to walk to the door to open it because I would be afraid that every crack or creak on the floorboards, people would hear me. I was the only person in the house. That's how crazy drug addiction is.
Not only was Elton losing his mind, his body was in serious danger of packing up as well.
I had seizures where I would just collapse and fall over, bang my head, my nose would be bleeding, and then people would find me after I collapsed and I'd be blue and they'd put me back to bed. And then half an hour later, I come out of bed and I go back into the drawer and get some more coke. That's how stupid you are.
By 1990, things had become so bad, Elton had to make the bravest decision of his life.
I knew that this was the time that I would either have to make the decision I was going to get sober or I was going to die. And I didn't want to die. I went into a hospital in Chicago and I spent 6 weeks there, and they were brilliant. In treatment, I had to write a farewell letter to cocaine. I wrote it as if cocaine was a person, as a lover. And I was saying goodbye to a lover that I loved very much, that I'd sent planes for, trains for, cars for. You are my whore, I love you so much, but I can never see you again, even though I'd gone back so many times before. And I wrote, if I see you in a room, I'll leave. Bernie Taupin came to see me in treatment, and I read it to him, and he actually cried when I read it, because it was a very moving letter. It was the first thing I think I'd ever written that was the truth for so long.
Elton's fight with cocaine was the hardest battle he'd ever had to win. But in 1990, thanks to his rehab program, he managed to finally become clean. Up next, Elton gets worked up about AIDS.
because he had HIV. People were throwing bricks through his window, fire bombs at his house.
Loved up over David Furnish.
It's great when you see people who stick it out through thick and thin because they actually love each other.
And blows up over his wardrobe.
It's 7 o'clock in the morning to get here, and I'm fucking person leaving my fucking clothes in the car.
Welcome back to this incredible trip through the memories of Elton John. In the early 80s, a new and frightening epidemic became headline news.